Hey there, Svelte Summit. I'm Mateo. I'm the creator of Primo. Primo is an all-in-one tool for developing and managing small static sites with the power of Svelte. For a few years, I worked as a front-end developer at an agency, and I experienced a lot of friction in my workflow, mostly with setting up new projects and connecting all the disparate parts that I needed to get up and running. So Primo was born out of that. It's a new approach which integrates a content management system and a development environment into a single interface that generates a static site that you can host anywhere. So in this talk, I'm really excited to show you just how easy it is to use Primo to build websites, and in the process, demonstrate how Svelte unlocks all of this functionality. I've gone ahead and downloaded Primo, and I'm running it on my desktop. Primo is a SvelteKit application, so here we're just running it in Electron. I'll go ahead and click Create a Site and give my site a name. And that will open the editor. And I can go ahead and zoom in for those of you watching from your phones. And you see I have a blank page that I can add content to, or I can add a component to. So to get started, I'm just going to add some content. And I can use Markdown here to write content. So with a hash, I can create a h1, say hello, Svelte Summit, and add in a paragraph below that. And below that, add in an image. And this is using the TipTap version 2 editor by Uberdoses, which builds on Prosemir. So there's a lot of really cool things that we can get out of this, out of the box. So when I'm ready with that, I can click Publish and save and publish. And the one thing I did do before this was connect to Vercel using my Vercel token. And now that I've done that, I can publish tens or hundreds of websites. And there we go. A minute later, we have a fresh new website. But we might want to do more than this, like add actual components and make it a proper landing page. So for that, I'll go back into the editor and delete that block and add a component. You see, I don't have any components. I haven't created any yet. I can create one from scratch or paste some in from another site or from a friend, or I can go up to the Primo Library. And this is a component pack that comes with Primo that you can use in all your sites. And so to add them, I'll just hover over them and click Add. So I'll add some teasers, a hero, and site navigation. If I switch back into my site library, I'll see those all in here, and I can just click one to add it to my page. I'll go ahead and add the rest of those below. Let me just zoom out a little bit to make this a little clearer on desktop. Finally, the footer. So there we go. Now there's just two things that I want to do before I publish my site. I obviously want to change the content, and then I'm going to want to modify the code. So first, the content. So to do that, I will hover over a component and click Edit Content. And here I have an isolated view of this component. On the left, I have my fields to edit the content, and on the right, I have a instantly updating preview of the component. So I'll go ahead and say, hello, Svelte Summit, and draft that. And there we go. And so to edit the code, all I have to do is go up into the toolbar, switch to the IDE, and then again, hover over the component and click Edit Code. And I see my Svelte component split up into the three parts that make a Svelte component. That is the HTML, the CSS, and the JavaScript. So I don't have any JavaScript here. I can go ahead and close that. And then if I want to modify the HTML, for example, to add a superhead above this heading, I can do that here. And this is not defined because I haven't defined it yet. To define it, I go up to my fields, add a new field, and just move it to the top first. And give it that same ID as the variable. And then we're good to go. And we can go out, switch to the CMS, and again, edit that component. So there we go. And one last thing I want to do before we publish our site is change the color. So you'll see I'm using a kind of blue here across my site. And that's not something that I would want to change within each component. To change those, I go up to CSS in the toolbar, which opens up my site CSS and my page CSS if there's anything I want to overwrite just on this one page. So in my site CSS, you'll see I get some CSS that I just kind of get out of the box, including a bunch of variables that correspond to the Primo components that I have on my page. So for example, if I change the accent color here to red, I'll see that reflected across my whole site, and I can change the other values here to see those reflected as well. And once I'm happy with that, I can again go up to publish, save and publish that. And after a few seconds, I will have my updates on my new site. And there we have it, our brand new landing page. So I'm just going to go ahead and open the page source so you can see that we are working with just static HTML, CSS, and the tiny amount of vanilla JavaScript that we need for our interactive component. So opening that up again, you'll see we're using just a little bit, tiny amount of JavaScript here for the interactivity and for the animation, again, getting that from Svelte. And in the build, that's all static HTML and CSS, and the tiny amount of vanilla JavaScript that it needs is also produced by Svelte and imported to hydrate that static component. So there you have it. That's basically Primo in a nutshell. As you can see, it builds heavily on Svelte to enable component-driven development and component-driven content management. But more than that, Primo builds on the philosophical foundation set by Svelte, which is one of accessibility and approachability that doesn't compromise on power. At least that's what we're trying to do. Primo is in open alpha if you'd like to try it out. We're also working on a server version, which will allow you to collaborate on your sites with others and access your sites from anywhere. And we have a lot of exciting things on the roadmap, including internationalization, a way to export your Primo projects into SvelteKit when they outgrow Primo, and a public library where you can actually submit components, collaborate on them, and use components that other people have created. So if you're excited by this and you'd like to follow along to use Primo or to contribute, you can do all that at Primo AF. That's primo.af. Thanks.